This video has been put together to help you learn how to use the SUM library. You can see that I got to the library page by typing in sum.edu/library. Today, I'm particularly interested in showing you how to use one feature here in the library, the EBSCO-ATLA online library. It's located right here. As I scroll down, you can see that there are a lot of other resources here in the library that you can use. And you see here that if you want to contact the library, you could write the librarian, library@sum.edu. But we specifically want to look at these databases provided by EBSCO and ATLA. So I'm going to click on that, and you'll see that it immediately asks me for a user ID and password. These user ID and passwords change from time to time, so you'll want to ask your professor what is the most current user ID and password. When you get into this area, you're going to see that there are lots of different databases that you can choose from. There's a whole lot of different databases you can choose from. What I suggest you do is to click on Select, because that will tell this search engine that you want to look at everything that the SUM library has to offer, and then click on Continue. After you've done that, you can see right there that your cursor is flashing inside of a box, and it's kind of like a box if you're looking something up on Google. You type in what you're looking for. So let's say I'm looking for women. Oh, look, women automatically popped up. So this is something that this search engine has looked for before. Let's say women. Let's say I'm interested in women pastors. And so pastor popped up there. And let's say that I'm gonna start with that. So I've typed in women and I've typed in pastor, and I'll click this green search button and see what happens. Well, I have 1,170 possible articles. That's way too many for me to read. So I'm going to go over here to the left side, and I'm going to tell this search engine that I only want to see the full text of the article, which means that I'll get to see more than just the title. I'll get to see everything. So let me click on full text. You can see now it's down to 681 articles. But that's still really too many for me to read. So I'm going to tell it that I would like it to limit to scholarly peer-reviewed journals. Now it's brought it down to 155, but that's really still too many for me to read. I notice here that I could limit the publication date, and so I'd be really interested in things that have happened fairly recently with women in pastoral ministry. So I'll set it from 2015 to 2019. Okay, now I'm down to 32 articles. And so I think, all right, I'll check out some of these articles. The first article talks about HIV prevention. I'm not really writing my paper on that. The second article talks about an interdependent view on women in leadership. Comes from the Asian Journal of Theology, April 2015. That might be interesting. Missiological perspectives of the laying on of hands connected with women pastors. This seems to come from a source that, as a person who only reads English, that I might not be able to read. Maybe I need to check language until I only want to look at English articles. Okay, so now I'm down to 32 articles. Here, well, it still kept that. That's interesting that kept it. It must be written in English. Here it talks about an interdependent view of women in leadership. Here it talks about experience of stress and coping strategies among pastors' wives in China. That could be interesting. To communicate simply, you must be understood profoundly. Self-care, a Christian perspective. The use of scripture in sermons when pastors pray, and it's not talking about the pray like we do to Jesus. So let's say that I think I'd like to read some information about this very first or actually the second one, Interdependent View on Women in Leadership. I see here that it's written by author William Fung in the Asian Journal of Theology on April 2015. It's volume 29, issue number 1. It starts on page 117 and goes to page 138. Tells me that there's 22 pages here. And so if I want to read this article, I can look and see it's on religious leadership. It's about equality. There's something in it about cross-cultural studies and clergy, and it has something about women in clergy. So I'm like, okay, I think I might like to look at this article. So I click on PDF full text. And you can see here that I now have the full text available to me. I can read this entire article called An Interdependent View on Women in Leadership. Over here, again, it tells me that it's coming from the Asian Journal of Theology. It tells me the date. And if I look here, I can see that this happens to be page 117. And as I go through this article, of course, I'm just pretending to read this. Oh, here's something interesting. 3 views on women in leadership. Hierarchical view, egalitarian view, and then the interdependent view. So maybe this is something that I'm really interested in, but I just don't have time to read this entire article right now. So what I'll do is I'll go over here to this old-fashioned envelope and I'll click on it because that's the email envelope. I'm going to type in my email address. And I'm going to remind myself that this is an article about women pastors. And I'm going to choose to ask for the citation format in Chicago Humanities. Now, I want to tell you, you can't always trust what the computer says is the best way to do Turabian. Always trust your professor. And then I'll send that article to myself. And then there is a confirmation. Your email has been sent to, and that's my email address. So let's say that I'd like to go back. And so I'll just go to the back button. And I'm right back on the page that I was just at. And so I looked at that article, An Interdependent View on Women in Leadership. I'm curious about this article, even though it looks like it's written in Asian script. Let me just try to open it and just see what's there. Oh, okay. Well, this actually happens to be written in English, but there are also some footnotes in another language. But I can see here, if I scroll down, it comes from the Korean Journal of Christian Studies. So that helps me to understand that this must be written in Korean. So I don't speak Korean. So if I decide to cite this in my paper, I'm going to put this information in the Korean Journal of Christian Studies, volume number 97. And I can see that the date here was January the 1st of 2015. So let's say I'm going through this and I'm like, you know, this is another article that I think would be really interesting to me. It talks about the cultural meaning of laying on hands. It talks about laying on hands in the Bible. So this is an article that I'm really interested in. And here it talks about just some other things that are interesting to me. So I'd like to send this article to myself so I can read it later. Just go right over to email, click email, and just like before, type in my own email address, type in the subject, and then hit send. If you choose to get the citation format, this is the one you want to choose. Again, you can't always trust it. Let's go back and take just a peek. Let's get out of this and go all the way backwards, just going backwards and going backwards through all the things we looked at. And then you're back here right at the beginning. I hope this short video was helpful. God bless you as you continue to continue your education of SUL.